Good morning, friends. Today we are going to discuss about communicative English. This will be an introductory class to you all in order to make you all understand the importance of communication skill in our day-to-day life. When we talk about professional, educational or vocational courses, it is very important to understand the importance of communication, particularly English language communication, because this is going to give you a bright career and even it is going to help you in your professional life. So let us understand what actually the communication is and how it is important in our day-to-day life. So moving ahead, in the first chapter, we are going to introduce about communication skills, and we are going to talk about the objectives, the various types of communication, as well as what are the barriers and what is the process of communication. So let us look first for the definition of communication. What do we understand by the process of communication? When we say communication, communication is a process which helps you to understand in order to deliver, in order to inform, or in order to convey your piece of information to the other. It keeps on changing. It is not constant, and it is always a two-way process. Remember, if it is one-way communication, you cannot understand the things in a proper way and there will be confusion. So therefore, in order to avoid confusion, it is very important that you need to have a two-way communication. So when we say communication, it is very important to master this skill, because the way you are going to communicate is a skill. The way you are going to inform others, the way you are going to persuade others, the way you are going to talk or discuss the topics with others, this is an art. So therefore, let us understand how can we master this communication skills. So when we talk about mastering communication skills, we need to understand that what to communicate is very important. When we say what is to be communicated, we should have a clarity in our thought. We need to have a proper understanding. To whom are we informing? What is it that we want to inform? And whether they understand the information that is being conveyed to them in a proper way or not. So, clear understanding of what is to be communicated is the first thing that we have to keep in our mind whenever we are beginning with the communication process. So understand what you want to communicate in a clear way, in an easy way, so that it could be easily delivered to the respondent or to the person whosoever is listening to you. The second thing is the objective of the communication should be defined. When the objective is not defined, it won't be called as a communication. It will remain a chatter or will remain a gossip. So therefore, you have to have a clarity in your thought, even in your mind, that why you want to communicate. There has to be a proper goal. Unless and until there is no goal oriented, this communication cannot be considered as an objective oriented. So therefore, you have to give a proper objective. You need to assign a proper objective towards the communication. You need to convey proper message. You need to have a proper understanding of what you want to convey, and at the same time identify that what is the reason behind this communication. Once when you know this, to whom you are going to communicate, know the audience with whom you are interacting. It is very important to understand that audience is a person who is listening to you. Audience is a person who is paying attention to what you are trying to communicate or to listen to what you are willing to say. So therefore, it is very important to make sure that whom you are addressing, whom you are willing to communicate. How to communicate is the fourth question. So the moment once when we are talking about mastering communication skills, it is very important to identify how to communicate. This includes whether your communication is going to be oral or will it be a written communication? Is it going to be a direct or indirect communication? Will it be pre-planned or extempore? Or will it also involve certain cost? Or it has a specific value, it has a specific time within which you have to deliver the communication. Unless and until you don't keep all these four important questions in your mind, you cannot communicate in a better way. So therefore, it is very important to understand how to communicate so that the information that you want to deliver reaches to the right person at the right time. When to communicate? This is the major question. Most often it happens that the communication that you wanted to deliver has reached very late, or that wasn't the right time where you should have communicated. You missed that opportunity or chance. So therefore, it is very important to understand when to communicate so that the right information reaches to the right person at the right time. How often to communicate? Communication is not saying or stating the information at one time at one go and then forgetting it. It is very important to identify how repetitive you have to be in your communication. There has to be a proper follow-up action. If you do not take a proper follow-up action, if there is no revision of what you have communicated, person may not be able to understand. So therefore, it is also important to identify how often you have to communicate, how many regular follow-ups is required, how often you are going to reach up to the person to identify whether the person that the information that was delivered to the person, could he or she able to understand, able to interpret, and able to do it. So therefore, it is very important to know how often do we communicate, and then collect the feedback. It is very important to collect the feedback. Often it happens that we communicate, we believe as a speaker, my voice is clear, my words are clear, and a person, whosoever is going to listen to me, will understand it in a very clear and crystal manner. We may be wrong. It is very important to understand that feedback should be collected once when you share any piece of information. Feedback is always helpful both at the speaker's level as well as at the listener level. So therefore, it is very important after you communicate to collect the feedback, whether the person could understand and whether the person could rightly interpret what was conveyed or what was being informed. And then you need to evaluate whether after taking of the feedback, after getting the feedback from the listener, was the communication rightly delivered or not. If the information that was delivered was wrongly interpreted, it is your responsibility as a speaker to once again re-inform or once again let the person know that the information that was being observed by the person as a listener was wrong, was wrongly interpreted. So therefore, it is very important to understand that whenever we are talking about communication skills, we need to understand the WH family is going to help us in many ways. We need to really remember all these WH family words in order to ask questions before we communicate. What is to be communicated, to whom it is communicated, when it is to be communicated, how it is to be communicated, and how regularly you have to communicate, whether you have received the feedback or not, and if the feedback was not positive, then were there any necessary or corrective steps taken in order to get to the right concept or not. So when we talk about mastering communication skills, the WH family or the open-ended questions will play a very significant role when you are communicating. So when we talk about communication, this is something which is very important in our day-to-day life, and we have to understand that this communication is going to pave a way to success, to your career, as well as to the to understand the concepts which you are going to learn toward your course period of time, that is when you are pursuing BBA as well as BCA course. So I hope that you have understood this concept and you understood the importance of mastering communication skills. In the next chapter, we are going to talk about objectives of communication skills. Till then, goodbye.